Hey there, welcome back. Tonight, we're diving straight into the world of London's criminals, the pickpockets, forgers, burglars, smugglers, and tricksters who made the medieval city breathe after dark. By listening to this, you'll learn how crime in medieval London really worked, how these people earned, survived, and quietly shaped the rhythm of the city itself. A small favor before we start: subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys, and drop in the comments what stories you'd like to hear next. Now, settle back in your bed, get comfortable, and let London drift around you. Candlelight, fog, and faint footsteps echoing through time. It's night in the 14th century. The curfew bells have faded, and London exhales. The sound of boots on cobblestone gives way to the shuffle of those who are only just beginning their workday. The respectable world has gone to bed, but the city isn't done yet. The Thames glistens under a grey moon, thick with the smell of salt, fish, and secrets. On the bridge, fainter lights flicker from taverns and inns. Someone laughs, too loud. Someone else hushes him. Every whisper, every step feels like a negotiation between hunger and fear. This is the true London, not the royal court or the cathedral, but the invisible one, stitched together by hands that steal, copy, and smuggle. If you follow the sound of a wheeled cart creaking over uneven stones, you'll find the night workers, the ones who trade in things that shouldn't exist. A man in a patched cloak opens a sack under a torch. Inside are coins, shaved, light, illegal. He pays his companion in silence. The coin clippers of London don't talk much. Talking attracts attention. Attention gets you hanged. Further down, under the arches, another group moves crates. The smell of wine seeps through the wood. French wine, technically banned, but bans are only for the poor. Tonight, it will be sold to an innkeeper in Cheapside who swears it came from Kent. That's how crime lives here. Not in defiance of order, but underneath it. The street narrows. The walls lean inward, as if listening. A small shape darts from shadow to shadow. A cut purse, maybe 12 years old. His job is quick, fingers light, nerves steady. He watches a drunk merchant lurch out of a tavern, purse swinging like bait. In a heartbeat, it's gone. The boy disappears before the man even realizes he's been robbed. He'll take the purse to a woman who runs a bakery by day. She's a fence, though no one calls her that out loud. The back room smells of flour and theft. She'll melt the coin metal into ingots, slice the purse into strips for shoe straps, and pretend it never existed. Every corner of London has someone like her. People who clean what others dirty. Picture the city from above. The crooked lanes, the timber roofs, the smoke from 1,000 hearths twisting into fog. Beneath that fog is an economy the records never mention. It's not rebellion. It's survival. A thief here doesn't dream of power or luxury. He dreams of breakfast, a night without frostbite, a day without the stocks. Near St. Paul's, a man named Ellis, though names change as often as faces, counts coins on a tavern table. His fingers are black with soot from melting silver. He used to be a carpenter, before the guild refused his membership. The tools he made for houses now open locks instead. His laughter fills the room, hoarse, unsteady. He drinks to the rhythm of opportunity. Next to him, 2 women whisper about a client. They call themselves laundresses. Everyone knows better. They share bread, stories, and bruises. Crime isn't always chosen. Sometimes it's the only profession still hiring. A door creaks open. Cold air spills in, carrying the smell of fish and tar. A man in a thick coat nods once. That's the sign. The tavern grows quieter. Deals are being made again, quiet as prayer. Outside, a watchman shuffles past, his lantern swaying. He's humming. The tune is off key, the rhythm slow, the rhythm of someone paid to pretend not to notice. His pockets jingle faintly, not with duty, but with coins. He's been bribed tonight, same as last night. Everyone knows. No one says it. That's how order stays alive here. Not through fear, but through compromise. It's easy to romanticize this city, to imagine noble thieves and clever rogues, but most of them don't live long enough to be charming. Infection kills faster than justice, hunger quicker than guilt. Still, there's a strange kind of community in the shadows. Smugglers and thieves nod to each other when paths cross. Fences keep promises longer than priests. Even the coin clippers have a code. Never clip the coins you plan to use at church. That would be bad luck. London's underworld isn't a rebellion. It's a mirror, reflecting everything polite society denies. The greed, the fear, the need. You pass by the Cheapside Market, long since closed. The stalls stand empty, but the air still hums with daytime memory. The calls of vendors, the smell of meat and onion, the laughter of buyers. Now only ghosts bargain here. You can almost hear them whisper prices into the dark. Somewhere near the crossroads a figure kneels, not to pray, to pry loose a coin that slipped between the stones. The act is half desperate, half devotional. For some in this city, money is the only god that listens. If you listen carefully, you can hear the heartbeat of London. It's not the church bell or the king's trumpet. It's the shuffle of feet in an alley, the soft clink of metal, the exhale of someone relieved to have survived another night. The city doesn't judge them. It needs them. Every loaf of bread sold cheaply, every barrel of untaxed wine, every pawn trinket. It all keeps the wheels turning. Crime isn't the disease. It's the symptom of everything else. The fog thickens again. You walk along the river, where the smell of wet rope and tar fills the air. Somewhere in the mist, a ferryman rows toward the south bank, humming a tune no one remembers. His boat carries more than passengers, always has. He vanishes into the dark, and for a moment, all is still. No sound, no law, no difference between saint or sinner. Only the breath of the river. As the first light begins to seep through the clouds, you sense the city pulling itself inward, like a thief hiding his hands. The bakers wake, the watchmen head home, the criminals fade into daylight, leaving behind no footprints, no guilt, no names. And you, standing by the water, realize something simple. London never sleeps because survival doesn't. The sun never really rises in London's alleys. It just thins the fog until you can see how dirty everything actually is. By mid-morning, Cheapside is alive again. Wheels rattling, hawkers shouting, pigs rooting through peelings that used to be breakfast. And among the chaos move the smallest, quickest hands in England. Pickpockets, cut purses, the invisible fingers of the medieval economy. You notice them only when it's too late. A tug on a sleeve, a polite apology, a momentary bump, and the day's wages are gone. These are the city's light-handed children. Most start young, apprenticed not to a trade, but to hunger. They learn under older thieves who speak in a strange, wordless dialect of looks, gestures, and the twitch of a wrist. London's school of crime has no books, just repetition, bruises, and the occasional miracle of success. Picture the market at noon. Fish laid out on wet planks, geese hanging from hooks, barrels of ale sweating in the weak light. The smell is overwhelming. Salt, vinegar, damp straw, and life. Somewhere in that smell, a boy named Tom slips between two merchants arguing about the price of onions. He's small enough to vanish between elbows. He coughs once, loud enough to draw an eye. That's the signal. His partner, a girl maybe 14, called Sparrow because she never stops moving, brushes past the distracted buyer and slides a hand into the open purse. 2 heartbeats later, it's over. The coin disappears into her sleeve. She keeps walking, never looking back. Tom gets a loaf of bread for his distraction. Sparrow gets a bruise on her arm if she's caught. Usually she isn't. They'll meet later at a doorway that smells of yeast. A fence waits there, an older woman who runs her trade behind a bakery. She takes the coins, skims a share, and hands out small bits of stale bread. Her name is Mistress Alice. To the city, she's a widow. To the pickpockets, she's payroll. The language of thieves is mostly silence. Words are risky, glances safer. A tilt of the chin means yes. A scratch behind the ear means abort. A cough, perfectly timed, means go now. The city's noise covers everything. Even the bell from St. Paul's becomes just another distraction to hide behind. They call themselves cutters, nips, dippers, depending on what they take. A cutter slices open purses with a short knife. A nip steals directly by hand. The bravest are the priggers of prancers, horse thieves. Those men don't live long. In the poorer parishes, the line between thief and tradesman is mostly paperwork. Many keep a day job, porter, errand runner, candle seller, honest enough to look respectable when the constable asks. Some even pay church tithes. It helps to appear devout. A clean conscience, or at least the illusion of one, is good camouflage. The church preaches charity. The streets practice it differently. Every successful cut purse is expected to feed the younger ones. It's less morality, more insurance. A hungry apprentice is a noisy one. When the crowd thickens, feast days, fairs, royal processions, business becomes an art form. The pickpockets move like dancers through the press of bodies. A dropped hat here, a stumbled drunk there. Distraction is currency. You never work alone. At the Coronation Fair of 1337, records mention over 100 arrests for the lightening of purses. That's the official term. Lightening, as though theft were a form of mercy, a relief from the burden of wealth. But theft isn't the only game. There's a subtler craft, the short change. A stallholder buys a coin shaved by clippers, then passes it on in change, pretending ignorance. A beggar accepts alms and swaps the real coin for a hollow one, claiming it was false. A washerwoman finds a gold button and swears it came off the noble S sleeve she mended yesterday. Everyone cheats a little. The difference is who gets caught. The punishment for pickpocketing is public and cruel. Stocks in the square, sometimes the loss of an ear. For repeated offenders, hanging, though not always immediately. The city loves a spectacle, and executions draw crowds like theater. Still, new hands replace the old within a week. Hunger doesn't retire. You follow Sparrow and Tom one evening as the market closes. The sun dips, and the shadows stretch long and golden between the stalls. They sit behind a cart, sharing a stolen apple, laughing quietly. It's not much of a life, but it's theirs. She tells him of a plan, a bigger one, a merchant's house near the river, where travelers lodge with purses heavy from trade. She's heard of a man who can open locks. He'll take them along, if they're brave. Tom hesitates. Bigger money means bigger risk, but risk tastes like possibility when you have nothing. That's how it starts. The slow climb from nimble fingers to real danger. At night, the pair blend into a crowd heading toward the taverns. The watchmen shout half-hearted warnings about curfew. No one listens. Inside the Silver Swan, laughter drowns the law. Men gamble with dice carved from bone. The air smells of ale and tallow. Sparrow sits near the door, eyes bright. Tom counts coins under the table. Across the room, a tall figure nods to them. The lockbreaker she mentioned. His name's Will Cray. He smiles with too many teeth and offers a job. Tomorrow, he says, quietly. And just like that, childhood ends. Outside, the moon slips behind clouds. The river hums softly beyond the walls, carrying whispers downstream. Somewhere, a baker lights his oven. Somewhere else, a purse grows lighter. London's heartbeat quickens again. Steady, constant, necessary. For every sermon preached in daylight, there's a theft to balance it after dark. You leave the market behind, your feet echoing on wet stones. The smell of roasted chestnuts lingers, mixed with the faint iron scent of coins changing hands. And in that smell, you understand it. This isn't chaos. It's choreography. The city moves, steals, and survives in rhythm. The nights of London have a sound. Not the songs from the taverns, not even the bells. It's the sound of wood, bending, creaking, surrendering. That is the sound of someone trying to open a door that doesn't want to open. Burglars, the housebreakers, move when everyone else has fallen asleep. They know which houses have weak shutters, which inns keep the back gate unlatched, and which dogs bark only for strangers. They study the streets like a scholar studies scripture, quietly, endlessly, and always for survival. It's not glamour, it's patience. You follow one of them now, a man called Will Cray. He's the same lockbreaker who spoke to Sparrow and Tom at the tavern, a carpenter once, before poverty built him a different career. He keeps his tools in a leather roll, worn soft by time, a hook, a thin blade, a bit of wire, no swords, no armor. A sword only gets you killed faster. The city feels asleep, but it isn't. It's holding its breath. Every corner smells of damp and smoke. Somewhere a cat yowls, somewhere a woman coughs in her sleep. Above, a shutter bangs gently in the wind. It's not ghosts that haunt London. It's drafts and bad hinges. Will stops before a narrow house on Bread Street. Merchants live here, not rich enough for guards, not poor enough for pity. He tests the door with one gloved finger. It yields, just slightly. Good. He nods to Sparrow and Tom. They move in silence like parts of one mind. The trick isn't brute force. It's knowing what not to touch. Inside, the darkness has weight. You can hear every breath, every floorboard. The air smells of wax and wool, signs of comfort. A candle stub still smolders on the table, its smoke tracing faint lines through the air. Will moves first, his hands steady. He lifts the latch with a sliver of iron, listening for the click. Sparrow stays near the window, eyes fixed on the street outside. Tom's job is the bag. Nothing big, nothing loud. Only what can disappear easily. A silver spoon, a purse from the mantel. A ring left beside a prayer book. Each piece of quiet theft is a heartbeat. There's a strange kind of reverence in how they move. To the untrained eye, it looks like sin. To them, it's a kind of ritual. Precise, cautious, rehearsed. Every creak of the floor is an omen. Every whisper of cloth against wood a warning. And when it's over, they leave as they came. Ghosts without grace. The only sign they were ever there is a candle flame trembling in their wake. Outside again, the city feels colder. The moon peers through the fog like a disapproving eye. They move quickly, taking back alleys and courtyards, until they reach the river. There, under a low arch, they divide the spoils. Tom stares at the silver spoon as though it's treasure from a legend. Sparrow just shrugs. Enough for a meal, she says. Maybe two. Will pockets the ring. He doesn't explain why. No one asks. That's another rule of the night. Never ask who needs what. Not every break-in goes so cleanly. Sometimes the owner wakes. Sometimes the servant screams. Sometimes there's a fight. And sometimes the burglar doesn't come out again. You hear stories of watchmen's traps, fake houses baited with goods waiting for desperate hands, or of false employers who hire a thief for a job, then turn him in for the reward. The city eats its own, but still, they come. Every winter, new faces join the trade. A failed apprentice, a widow, a soldier, too proud to beg. They drift into the underworld because it's the only one hiring after sunset. London's architecture helps them. Houses lean into one another, sharing walls, creating labyrinths of attics and beams. A good burglar can cross 3 homes without touching the street. Roofs are ladders, gutters, highways. Some climb through windows no wider than a cat. Others bribe servants for keys. Some, the most desperate, crawl through sewers to reach basements. It's less like a crime, more like an act of archaeology, digging through the layers of other people's lives. There's one man everyone whispers about, Jack of Houndsditch. No one knows if that's his real name or just a story. They say he could open a chest faster than its owner, and once escaped capture by pretending to be a priest. His legend grows with every retelling. Maybe he's long dead. Maybe he's 3 men using the same name. In London, truth wears as many disguises as its thieves. The real danger isn't being caught. It's being recognized. A thief's face, once known, travels faster than a rumor. That's why most burglars keep changing districts, never sleeping in the same tavern twice. They become ghosts in life. Imagine living like that. Every sound a threat, every kindness a trap. Still, they laugh. Humans always find a reason to. Even in the darkest corners, humor survives. The kind that doesn't echo, just hums quietly between breaths. Honest men, Will says once, lock their doors. Wise men hide their keys. Sparrow snorts, and fools leave the window open. They all laugh, too softly for the city to hear. By dawn, they're gone. The stolen silver traded for bread. The ring melted into anonymity. The house sealed again, its owners none the wiser until daylight betrays them. When the merchant wakes, he'll curse, swear revenge, maybe pray. Then he'll go back to business. London teaches its citizens how to lose gracefully. Later that day, a city constable writes in his ledger, "Another theft upon Bread Street, entry by window, no suspects." The ink dries. The story ends there, at least on paper. But the truth keeps moving, hiding, breathing somewhere else. As night returns, fog curling between roof beams, you can almost see them starting again. Different street, same hunger. Will Cray, Sparrow, Tom, their silhouettes blur with the smoke as they cross another threshold, chasing the small miracle of survival. London doesn't love them, but it needs them to remind everyone that comfort is temporary, that even stone walls have seams, and that no lock is perfect. In a city built on commerce, theft is just the shadow of trade, and shadows are impossible to erase. The Thames at night is more than a river, it's a boundary between law and necessity, between silence and survival. By day, it sparkles with trade. By night, it moves like something alive, black and restless under the moonlight. You can smell it before you see it: tar, smoke, damp rope, and the faint sweetness of spilled wine. The water carries everything: grain, fish, rumors, sins. And somewhere along those shifting banks, hidden beneath the noise of waves, London's most efficient criminals are working. The smugglers, men and women who know that the city's wealth isn't tea in its walls, it yet in what passes unseen beneath them. Picture the wharf at midnight. The warehouses loom like silent giants. A single lantern swings from a post, painting the fog in trembling circles of light. Somewhere behind the crates, a whisper passes. Now. 4 figures move quickly. 2 lift the tarp, 1 pries open the barrel lid, another checks the seal. Inside, salted fish, on the surface, but deeper, wrapped in linen, French cloth, illegal, untaxed, and beautiful. You watch them work. There's no panic, no rush. They're professionals. Each movement has been rehearsed. The barrel is resealed, rolled onto a cart, and within minutes it's gone, swallowed by the sleeping city. No one shouts, no one runs. Smuggling isn't a chase, it's choreography. London's merchants depend on these ghosts. Taxes are heavy, tariffs unpredictable. Official trade takes months. Unofficial trade, a single night. Every noble who scolds the smugglers at court owns a cask of their wine in his cellar. The dock workers know this, of course. So do the watchmen, who make a small profit for seeing nothing. 1 silver penny buys silence, 2 guarantee it. Even the church tithes on stolen cargo sometimes. God's mercy is broad enough to cover creative accounting. The smuggler's world begins long before the water. Upstream, farmers hide extra grain under false planks. Shepherds shear a few missing fleeces for quiet sale. Carters line their wagons with contraband, then pay the gatekeepers to nod them through. By the time the goods reach the docks, they've changed hands 5 times, like whispers retold until no one remembers the original sin. And at the heart of it all sits a man named Ned Hawthorne. To most, he's just another barge captain, weathered, soft-spoken, the kind who smells perpetually of river water. But by night, he's a broker of shadows, moving everything from foreign cloth to secret letters. He's older than Will Cray, slower, but far more careful. He knows every curve of the Thames, every guard's patrol, every stretch where the fog runs thick enough to hide a barge. You meet him near Billingsgate, where the river widens. His crew waits, a boy with a lantern, a woman coiling rope, another man pushing a cart piled high with barrels. Fish from Dover, Ned says, smiling. At least that's what the paperwork says. He gestures for you to climb aboard. The boat rocks softly, the wood creaking like an old joint. The air is heavy and damp. You can hear the faint slap of water against the hull. As the boat drifts, Ned hums a tune with no melody. It's less a song, more a habit, something to fill the silence that would otherwise feel dangerous. Smuggling is half patience, half poetry. You wait for the tide, you wait for the fog, you wait for the right kind of darkness. Every ship talks, Ned says quietly. The trick is knowing which ones lie. He tells you about the signal lights. 2 blinks from the north bank means clear. 1 from the south means danger. About the false manifests written in neat Latin that no customs officer bothers to read. About the men who disappear not because they were caught, but because they talk too much. The river doesn't forgive talkers. You pass under London Bridge, its arches like the ribs of a giant beast. Above, houses lean over the water, dripping candle wax and rain into the current. People are sleeping above a world they don't understand. On the far side, the docks stretch into shadow. Here, Southwark hums quietly, the unlicensed half of the city where curfew doesn't apply and business never ends. The smugglers call it the belly. It's where everything is digested, goods, gossip, guilt. A man waits near the shore. He's wrapped in a wool cloak, face hidden. Ned nods to him but doesn't speak. The barrels are unloaded, coins change hands, and that's it. Transaction complete. No one keeps ledgers, no one writes receipts. In this world, memory is the only bookkeeping. The crew rows back up river, slow and steady. The night is almost over, and with it, their brief kingdom. They'll drink quietly at dawn, eat bread gone hard from salt air, and vanish into the city as dock hands or ferrymen. By noon, they'll look like everyone else. That's the smuggler's genius. Invisibility. Of course, not every job goes smoothly. There are patrols, small boats of city guards, often drunk, sometimes eager for coin. They row in crooked lines, their lanterns swinging like tired fireflies. When they spot movement, they shout, blow whistles, splash about heroically. The smugglers don't run. They wait. Fog is their ally, noise, their camouflage. Once, Ned tells you, he escaped a patrol by pretending to be a priest ferrying a coffin. Inside was a barrel of imported brandy. I even said a few prayers over it, he adds with a grin. Never waste a good disguise. For many, smuggling isn't a crime. It's a correction. The city tax is too high. The merchants charge too much. The poor earn too little. So the river equalizes. It takes what's hoarded and redistributes. Imperfectly, but effectively. There's something moral in that, or at least poetic. You think about the barrels now floating towards Southwark. Fine cloth, maybe sugar, maybe books that someone has forbidden to print. All the things the law calls luxury and the hungry call hope. By the time dawn light touches the water, the river looks innocent again. The same boats, the same ripples, the same smell of tar. The only difference is invisible, a few coins in a pocket, a few goods missing from a ledger. The watchmen stroll by, yawning. They'll report no disturbances in the morning records. The officials will nod. The city will keep breathing, unaware or unwilling to care about the pulse that moves beneath its surface. And Ned Hawthorne, the quiet boatman, will sleep through the day in a small room above a tavern, dreaming of tides and fog and silver. As the city wakes, you stand by the riverbank. Behind you, bells begin to ring. Ahead, the water glints, calm, secretive, endless. For every ship that sails under the banner of the crown, another drifts under the flag of hunger, and in the quiet space between them, London survives. Every stolen thing must come to rest somewhere. A ring, a bolt of cloth, a purse of clipped coins, none of them vanish. They only change hands until someone decides to call it honest again. That's where the fence comes in. The receiver, the broker, the silent midwife of every crime. Without them, theft is just clutter. With them, it becomes business. Morning light slants through the smoke over Cheapside. Merchants shout, carts rattle, apprentices chase each other with buckets of water, and somewhere between the spice stalls and the candle sellers sits a woman whose bread always smells a little too sweet. Mistress Alice, the baker, who never runs out of coin. You saw her once before, soft-spoken, hands dusted with flour, eyes that measure people the way others measure sugar. Behind her shop door lies a second world. A door that should lead to storage opens instead onto a narrow stair, steep and dark. Down there, the air turns heavy, the heat from the ovens fading into the cool musk of metal. Shelves line the walls, pewter cups without initials, candlesticks with the crests filed away, bits of jewelry nestled in sacks of grain. This is where stolen things come to forget who they were. A boy arrives first. Tom, nervous, clutching a cloth bundle. Inside, a few silver spoons. Mistress Alice doesn't ask where they came from. She already knows. She tips them into a basin of ash and lye, wipes the soot away with a rag, then examines the edge for marks. Church property, she mutters. We'll file that down. Her knife whispers across the metal until the engraved cross becomes nothing but a scar. When she's finished, she drops the spoons into a bucket of water. They hiss, then gleam dully. Now they're no one's, she says, smiling faintly. She pays Tom in bread and a few clipped coins. He doesn't count them. No one ever counts. The fence's power is invisibility disguised as hospitality. She buys stolen goods, melts guilt into silver, and sells them again to the same people who were robbed yesterday. Her shop stays open because everyone, even the constable, needs bread. Other fences prefer taverns. There's one at Aldgate called the Bell, where the ale is thin and the gossip thick. Every table there hides a deal, a watch for a cloak, a coin for a lie, a secret for another. The bartender writes prices in spilled beer on the counter, wipes them away before they dry. No ledgers, no witnesses. Fencing isn't loud work. It's arithmetic, charm, and nerve. A good receiver keeps three truths in balance: what the thief swears it's worth, what the buyer pretends it's worth, and what the world will pay once the blood smell fades. Sometimes the fence wins, sometimes the hangman does. There's a story about a man named Rowe who dealt in stolen books. He ran a stall by St. Paul's Cathedral, where scribes and priests passed daily. When a manuscript vanished from a monastery, Rowe would miraculously find a copy to sell. His trick was simple. He hired scholars to copy the stolen text overnight, sold the replica, then returned the original with tears and apologies. Profit, piety, and plausible deniability, the holy trinity of the London fence. But every network frays eventually. Mistress Alice keeps a list in her head: names, debts, who owes favors, who's been arrested. When one of her suppliers vanishes, she burns a loaf in his honor. The smell of scorched wheat becomes her morning bell. She knows the city's rhythm better than any priest. At dawn, deliveries from the docks. By noon, merchants pawning trinkets they swear are family heirlooms. By dusk, the cut purses arrive. If you stand outside her shop, you can hear the shift, morality changing with the light, as predictable as the tide. Once a month, she visits the Kara Bazaar, the black market, hidden among the tanneries near Smithfield. You'd never find it unless you knew the smell, a mixture of smoke, leather, and fear. The stalls look ordinary, but the goods are not. cloth without stamps, silver without marks, tools that once belonged to someone else. Here, everyone is both buyer and seller. A butcher trades stolen knives for wine. A sailor sells silk that fell off a ship. A young woman hawks tiny vials of perfume, the kind imported from Italy, forbidden to commoners. Prices shift with risk, not quality. The more dangerous the item, the more precious it feels. Mistress Alice walks slowly through the crowd, nodding to those she knows, ignoring those she doesn't. A whisper here, a coin there. She never haggles. It's beneath her. Her reputation is worth more than any discount. Some say the Kara Bazar started as a charity fair, long ago, a place where the poor could trade what they had. But the line between charity and survival is thin. Once you learn to sell what isn't yours, everything becomes negotiable. You watch a transaction unfold. A thief offers a jeweled brooch. The fence examines it under a scrap of candlelight. Too loud, she says. Too many questions. She breaks off a single gem, slides it into a pouch, and tosses the rest back. The thief protests. She shrugs. Noise costs extra. There's a strange elegance in it, a cold, professional politeness that almost feels honest. Back in Cheapside, the bakery closes for the night. Mistress Alice sweeps the floor, hums softly, and hides her day's earnings beneath a loose brick. Tomorrow she'll sell bread to the same constable who swore to catch the thieves she feeds. He'll compliment the crust. She'll thank him, and the city will keep its balance. Every economy has its saints and sinners. London's just happens to use the same address for both. By midnight, the ovens have cooled. The air smells faintly of ash and coin. You imagine the silver spoons, now anonymous, waiting on some merchant's table again. No one will notice the faint scar where the cross used to be. They'll call it craftsmanship. She'll call it dinner. And somewhere in the dark, another thief sharpens a blade, preparing tomorrow's inventory. The ink dries slowly in London's air. Too much soot, too much damp, and in that sluggish drying lies a small miracle, or a small crime, sometimes both. By day, the city's scribes copy sermons, contracts, charters. By night, others copy them, not monks but mimics, not scholars but forgers. They work in the half-light of tallow candles, their ink thick, their nerves steady. A tremor could mean a hanging. A perfect curve of a letter could mean a month's rent. Forgery is the most polite of crimes. No blood, no shouting, no chase. Just patience and handwriting. Its practitioners call themselves clerks, notaries, scriveners. The city calls them criminals only when they're caught. Their customers come quietly. Merchants, lovers, soldiers, anyone who needs to rewrite truth in prettier words. A forged license, a fake letter of debt forgiveness, a false seal on a shipment. Paper, it turns out, is easier to steal than silver. You find one such man in an alley behind St. Paul's, where the air smells of wax and old ink. His name, or at least today's name, is Matthew Blythe, once a law clerk, now an artist of lies. His room is small, its windows shuttered. Every surface is covered in parchment scraps. There's a rhythm to his work: grind ink, heat wax, press seal. Each movement precise, unhurried, reverent. He could be a monk copying scripture, if not for the pile of discarded city seals at his feet. Authenticity, he says, dipping his quill, is mostly confidence. He means it literally. Confidence men, con artists, thrive on the same principle. In London, belief is currency. If you can make someone believe your story for 3 minutes, you can eat for 3 days. They don't need weapons, just words, a story about inheritance, a smile that says trust me, a ring that looks like gold until the candlelight shifts. They sell promises the way others sell fish, loudly, quickly, and always with a smell. Matthew sometimes works for them. He forges the letters they wave around in taverns, supposed endorsements from noblemen, fake debts owed by imaginary uncles. He writes beautifully, even when he hates the lie. I never write a false name without saying a prayer for it, he says. Someone, somewhere, will deserve it. It's not guilt, it's habit, like sharpening the quill. You watch him craft a document tonight, a merchant's pass, allowing a cargo to cross the river untaxed. The seal he uses was once real, stolen from a dead clerk. He presses it into warm wax, breathes once, and sets it aside. The parchment curls slightly as it cools, just like an honest one. He smiles faintly. Perfect lies are boring, he murmurs. You need a flaw, something human. He adds a smudge of ink near the corner. Deliberate imperfection. It looks careless. It's genius. Outside, the conmen go to work. They blend into the taverns and markets, their clothes clean, but not too clean, their accents adaptable. One pretends to be a guild inspector, checking weights. Another sells a miracle cure for gout, brewed by monks, blessed by saints, proof against sin. They talk fast, laugh louder, and vanish before doubt catches up. The best of them, though, need no props, just a story. There's one known as the Gentleman. No one knows his real name, though his victims all describe the same details. A dark cloak, a calm voice, and eyes that never blink when they lie. He walks into merchants' homes with the confidence of someone who belongs there. He carries forged contracts, wax-sealed and perfect, claiming debts owed or rents overdue. The merchants, flustered by the paperwork, pay without question. By the time the ink is checked, he's gone. Another ghost in the fog. No one ever finds him. Some say he left for Bruges. Some say he's still here, working for the city under a new name. In London, promotion and pardon often look the same. Forgery thrives because the city itself is built on paperwork, charters, deeds, permits, each one a fragile thread holding together a civilization of mistrust. The poor can't afford those threads, so they spin their own. And every time the authorities tighten control, the forgers learn another trick. New seals, new inks, new oaths. It's an arms race fought with quills. Not all forgery is greed. Sometimes it's mercy. Matthew once rewrote a condemned man's confession, turned guilt into repentance, damnation into absolution. The priest knew. The hangman didn't. The man died forgiven, on paper at least. That counts for something. There's a tenderness in crime that the law will never understand. By dawn, Matthew's candle burns low. He stretches his fingers, ink staining every crease. The room smells of smoke and parchment, the scent of human ambition disguised as ink. He locks his chest of seals, tucks his earnings under the floorboard, and opens the window just enough to let in the sound of morning bells. Outside, honest clerks begin their day, scribbling the same words for half the pay. He smiles, closes the shutters, and goes to sleep. The difference between honesty and survival, he thinks, is just who signs the document. London moves on. The forgeries travel, pinned to barrels, folded into pouches, waved by men who believe their own lies. Each piece of paper becomes a ghost, wandering from hand to hand, pretending to be truth until someone new swears it is. And when it's finally discovered, when ink meets judgment, it will burn quickly, leaving behind nothing but the faint smell of wax and cleverness. By nightfall, the cycle begins again. A new letter, a new lie, a new life waiting to be written. The quill dips, the candle flickers, and somewhere between shadow and parchment, London writes itself a different version of honesty. Because here, in the city of ink and fog, truth is just the most successful forgery. The city's most dangerous criminals don't hide in alleys. They wear uniforms. Their crimes aren't whispered in taverns. They're murmured behind church doors, under the polite hum of duty. And the oldest rule of medieval London is this: if you can't escape the law, buy it. The watchmen patrol the streets with cudgels and lanterns, their breath white in the cold. To the citizens, their safety. To the underworld, they're just another cost of doing business. Rochefort, here, isn't shameful. It's practical. A quiet understanding that even the law has bills to pay. A coin in the palm buys silence. 2, buy cooperation. 3, buy friendship. temporary but useful. You follow one such man through the mist, John Arkwright, watchman of Bishopsgate Ward. His lantern flickers, the oil nearly gone. His boots squelch in mud. He hums a tune that sounds suspiciously like a tavern song. At the corner, a figure steps from the shadows. Will Cray. They nod, not as enemies, but as colleagues in the same late-night trade. Will passes him a small pouch. John weighs it in his hand, just enough to feel the coins. No trouble tonight, Will says. John smiles, the tired kind that says I never saw you. Good, he answers. City sleeps better that way. That's how most nights go. A rhythm of small negotiations. Everyone wins until they don't. Each ward has its own arrangement. Some watchmen charge per week, others per crime. The smart ones never ask questions, just raise the price when danger rises. It's a freelance morality, sliding scale, cash only. And it isn't just the watchmen. The porters at the city gates, men who check wagons and goods at dawn, run their own quiet empire. They decide who passes untaxed, whose goods are inspected, whose carts are mysteriously delayed. Every barrel, every bale of cloth carries a little extra weight, the weight of a coin hidden under the lid. One porter, old William Dyer, claims he can smell smuggled wine before he sees it. He's wrong. He smells money. Inside the guild halls, corruption takes a different shape. Not coins in pockets, but favors in ink. A guild master approves a dishonest apprentice because the boy's uncle supplies his wool. A cloth merchant donates to the church in exchange for lenient weighing standards. The city's justice isn't blind. It's far-sighted, always looking toward the highest bidder. Even judges play their part. A man caught stealing bread might hang. A man caught bribing the baker will dine with him next week. The real magic of corruption is how polite it becomes. No threats, no shouting, just a quiet folding of rules until everyone fits comfortably inside. London-esque morality is like its fog. It blurs the edges so kindly that no one remembers where the line used to be. You sit in a tavern where the city clerks drink. The room smells of ink, ale, and exhaustion. Two men at the next table argue softly about a contract. One says it's illegal. The other says it's traditional. Both are right. In London, the law isn't a wall. It's a conversation. Rushvet even has its own etiquette. Coins are never handed directly. They slide across tables inside folded notes or drop quietly into mugs. A glance seals the deal. No one says, "Thank you." That would make it awkwardly moral. A merchant might send a gift of spice to a gatekeeper's wife. A tavern owner might invite the local constable's brother to drink for free. Courtesy does the paperwork that conscience refuses to sign. You think of Mistress Alice, the fence with her bakery. Her protection doesn't come from secrecy. It comes from the men she feeds. Bread for the poor, pastries for the guards, silver for the silence. If the watch ever does raid her shop, they'll knock first, out of respect. There's a man known as Honest Tom, a nickname earned from how little it suits him. He collects fines from the brothels along Southwark. Officially, it's a moral tax. Unofficially, it's rent. Every month he makes the rounds, nodding politely to the women at the doors, pocketing coins with the same hand he uses to make the sign of the cross. If a new house opens without paying, it mysteriously burns within a week. No one blames Tom. Fire, like sin, travels fast. At higher levels, corruption becomes indistinguishable from government. A nobleman secures a monopoly on wool exports by donating Neromoski to the Mayor S. Festival Fund. A churchman receives land for spiritual counsel. The city smiles, records the gifts, and calls them blessings. The difference between theft and taxation, after all, is paperwork. But corruption isn't pure greed. It's lubrication, the oil that keeps London's crooked machinery from grinding to a halt. Without it, the city would collapse under its own weight of rules. Every bribe paid, every law bent, every winked eye keeps something moving. A shipment, a trade, a family. It's survival disguised as sin. One night, You watch John Arkwright again. He's older now, slower. The fog wraps him like guilt. He pauses beneath a street lamp, opens his pouch, and stares at the coins. You wonder what he thinks. Maybe he tells himself it's harmless. Maybe he tells himself the city owes him. Or maybe he just enjoys the sound they make, that soft metallic whisper promising warmth in winter. He pockets them, sighs, and keeps walking. As dawn breaks, the city looks clean again. The watchmen report peace. The guilds open their doors. The mayor attends church, nodding solemnly as the priest preaches honesty. Everyone believes him for a few minutes. It's easier that way. In the end, corruption isn't a secret in London. It's a lullaby. It soothes the city to sleep, whispering that everyone's guilty, so no one really is. It begins, as most things do, with hunger. Not the poetic kind. The kind that gnaws. The kind that makes your hands shake when you smell bread through a window. That's where Tom, the boy who once stole spoons from Mistress Alice, starts. He's 15 now, older but not grown. His clothes hang loose, his shoes patched with bits of rope. London is full of boys like him, small, fast, forgettable. He's survived by being all three. After months of running errands for thieves and fences, Tom learns a truth older than any law. You don't need strength in London. You need usefulness. He becomes useful to Will Cray, the burglar. Will likes that Tom doesn't talk, doesn't panic, doesn't steal from his own. Those are rare virtues, so he teaches him things. How to listen through a wall, how to tell oak from pine by smell, how to walk across a floorboard without a sound. It's not mentorship, it's delegation. Every teacher here expects betrayal eventually. By 17, Tom runs messages between the smugglers and the fences. He knows which watchmen take bribes, which porters drink too much, which taverns hide contraband behind the barrels. He learns the river's moods, when fog rises, when patrols drift, when the moonlight turns the water to silver and you can see your own reflection and not like what you find. He stops thinking of himself as poor. He's something different now, necessary. Mistress Alice still calls him boy, but she trusts him with deliveries that carry more value than she'll ever admit. Sometimes it's silver, sometimes it's letters sealed in wax, sometimes it's things that hum faintly, like guilt. He asks once what's inside. She smiles. Wait, she says, and wait is money. He doesn't ask again. Then one winter, Will Cray disappears. Rumor says a job went bad near Cornhill, a window that wasn't empty, a merchant who wasn't asleep. Tom waits 3 nights by the river before accepting the truth. The water keeps more secrets than it gives back, so he steps into the space Will left behind. No ceremony, no crown, just an empty room and a set of tools wrapped in oilcloth. The city doesn't notice his promotion, but the underworld does. Being the thief in charge isn't about stealing more, it's about deciding who gets to. He starts with a crew of 3, Sparrow, still sharp-tongued and restless, a man called Finch, who can climb anything, and a one-eyed porter named Hob. They meet in cellars, plan by candlelight. Their rule is simple: never take from the desperate, never hurt the innocent, always pay the watch. It's not morality, it's mathematics. The fewer people who hate you, the longer you live. The jobs grow bolder. A jewelry chest from a merchant's wife. A shipment of wine diverted from the docks. A set of forged permits from Matthew Blythe, the forger with the quiet hands. Each success pulls them higher and closer to the edge. For every coin earned, 10 new enemies appear. But Tom changes with it. His eyes grow older, his voice quieter. He learns to dress like the people he robs, not to mimic them, but to disappear among them. The city begins to mistake caution for virtue. Sparrow teases him one night, her hair damp from rain. "You sound like a priest now, talking about rules." Tom smiles. "Priests steal souls. I just steal silver." She laughs, but the sound doesn't reach her eyes. She's restless, tired of small games. She wants a score big enough to end the story. He almost tells her that endings in London aren't chosen, they happen. The opportunity comes with a rumor, a noble's house near Fleet Street, filled with imported tapestries and foreign wine. The owner away, the servants bribed, the guards indifferent. It's too perfect. And that's how every downfall begins. They plan for weeks, maps drawn on scraps of parchment, signals rehearsed, tools oiled and hidden. The night comes cold and clear. They climb the wall like shadows, slip through the window like breath. Everything goes smooth until it doesn't. A candle flickers in a hallway that should be dark. A servant, half asleep, holding a bucket. The silence shatters, shouts, footsteps, panic. Finch grabs the chest. Sparrow runs. Hobb swings his cudgel. Tom hesitates, just a second too long. Then he's running too, lungs burning, boots striking stone. Behind him, the bells begin to ring. London always wakes for other people's mistakes. They scatter. By dawn, only 2 make it back to the safe house. Finch gone. Sparrow bleeding from her arm. Tom sits at the table, staring at the chest they risked everything for. Inside, papers. Nothing but deeds and letters. Valuable, yes, but not to them. He laughs quietly, the sound brittle. We stole promises. Sparrow doesn't laugh. She just says, "Sell them anyway." They do. Matthew Blythe buys them for a handful of coins. He can forge the rest. That's the thing about London. Even failure finds a buyer. Weeks pass. Sparrow heals mostly. Tom learns to trust slower, talk less. He realizes he's reached the top without noticing. Not rich, not safe, but respected. The thieves nod when he passes. The fences pay on time. Even the watchmen glance away. He's not a boy anymore. He's an institution. But power in this city is a house built on fog. One wrong step, and it's gone. One evening, as rain hammers the roofs, a messenger brings news. Mistress Alice has been arrested. Her bakery raided, her cellar emptied. Someone talked. Tom doesn't need to ask who. He knows. Every empire ends with betrayal, and it always begins at home. He hides for days, watching from shadows as they drag her through the streets. She doesn't look afraid. She looks tired. When she passes the tavern where they first met, she lifts her chin slightly, a gesture that could mean anything, or everything. By morning, she's gone. The city swallows her name like it swallowed Will's. Tom walks the alleys that night, hands in his coat, the rain washing everything clean but his thoughts. He's rich now, in the small way criminals measure wealth. Coins enough for warmth, debts owed, faces that look away when needed. But something shifts. For the first time, he feels old. He stands by the river, watching barges drift through fog. Some carry wine, some carry bodies, all carry secrets. He thinks of the chain that brought him here. From a hungry boy to a quiet king of thieves, every step paid for in trust, in silence, in the lives of better people. He could leave, take a ship, vanish. But the river whispers the truth. There's nowhere else to go. Every city is the same once you learn what people are made of. When dawn breaks, he tosses a coin into the water, not for luck, not for forgiveness, but as a promise. He'll keep the rhythm going, the trade, the silence, the city's heartbeat, because someone has to. In London, there are no heroes, only survivors, and survival, Tom realizes, is the highest rank there is. Not every crime in London wears a hood or creeps by candlelight. Most of it wears rags, smiles politely, and asks for a penny. You see them at every gate, the beggars, the forgotten choir of the city. They lean against walls, wrapped in blankets that smell of rain and soot, murmuring their rehearsed sorrows. A blind man whose eyes still follow movement. A cripple whose limp vanishes when he runs from the watch. A mother whose child is always asleep because the child is made of cloth. London's streets are a stage, and pity is the currency. Some are genuine, most are not. But even the false ones serve a purpose. They remind the rich that generosity looks good in public. They remind the poor that survival sometimes means performance. And they remind the church that charity is easier than justice. A city like London needs its beggars the way a theater needs its extras. The trade has rules. Every district belongs to a particular beggar master, a quiet organizer who assigns corners, collects dues, and punishes freeloaders. You pay a share of your alms, 2 farthings a day, for protection, for legitimacy, for the right not to be beaten by someone hungrier than you. The organization calls itself the Fellowship of the Road. It sounds noble. It isn't. It's logistics. Their symbols are subtle. A bit of red thread on the sleeve, a notch cut into a wooden bowl, a whispered phrase that means I belong to someone. The fellowship keeps order, of a kind. Too many beggars in one place brings attention, too few, and the public forgets to give. Even compassion in London has quotas. You watch a man named Old Jory leaning against the wall near St. Mary's. His left leg is bound in splints, his beard yellow with age. When he hears coins jingle, he moans convincingly, a noise between prayer and despair. At sunset, when the street's empty, he limps into a side alley. There, he removes the splint, straightens his leg, and counts his day's earnings. Enough for bread, ale, and the small payment to his master. Tomorrow, he'll limp again. The performance resumes. It's easy to mock them. Harder to admit that the beggars are businessmen, entrepreneurs in suffering. They sell the only thing they own, other people's guilt. And guilt in London never runs out. A different kind of quiet theft happens inside the guilds. The respectable heart of the city. There, men in clean tunics cheat each other with smiles instead of knives. A weaver shortens his cloth by an inch. A baker mixes sawdust into flour. A mason pockets the leftover lime. Small crimes, small profits, endless repetition. They call it custom, tradition even. The guild inspectors, those noble defenders of quality, rarely see a thing. After all, their pockets are heavy with inspection fees. There's a kind of poetry in it, the symmetry between beggar and master. One cheats with a limp, the other with a ledger. Both survive by pretending. Both depend on the blindness of others. You begin to realize that London's entire economy runs on illusion. The only difference is how expensive the illusion is. Inside a tailor's workshop, a young apprentice learns the finer points of deceit. His master shows him how to fold seams to hide poor stitching, how to dye old fabric darker to sell as new. It's not lying, the master says. It's efficiency. The boy nods. He'll remember that word forever. In the market, a butcher sharpens his knife, wiping blood on his apron. His meat looks fresh, but it isn't. He learned long ago that customers buy with their eyes, not their tongues. So he paints color back into dying flesh with a mix of wine and vinegar. When the priest buys his Sunday roast, he compliments the quality. The butcher bows, smiling. No one dies of honesty. You walk through the Smithfield Fair, where the air smells of animals, ale, and profit. Here, trickery becomes entertainment. Men gamble on dice loaded with lead. Women sell potions that cure everything but common sense, and street preachers shout about sin while pocketing donations. It's not evil. It's expected. The city accepts deception as it accepts fog, inevitable, faintly beautiful, and impossible to remove. Further east, along the docks, even the sea joins in the game. Merchants bribe tide measurers to exaggerate depths, ensuring lighter fees for smaller ships. Scribes alter manifests to hide extra cargo. Fishermen salt their catch twice to make it weigh more. Every transaction hides another. Honesty, here, is bad for business. But crime, no matter how small, needs justification. The beggars say they cheat because the world cheated them first. The guildmen say they cheat because everyone else does. The merchants say they cheat because the taxes are unfair. And the city, in its quiet way, agrees with all of them. No one is innocent. Everyone has reasons. And reasons sound a lot like prayers when whispered in the dark. There's a moment near dusk when you stand on Cornhill and realize something strange. All around you, Life moves perfectly. The bells ring, the carts roll, people buy, sell, trade, steal, all part of the same rhythm. The crimes don't disrupt the city. They are the city. Take them away, and London would fall silent, like a theater with no actors, waiting for a story to begin. You pass a group of children playing in the mud, tossing a coin between them. They laugh, argue, accuse each other of cheating. They're learning early. One day, they'll call it commerce. By night, the beggars return to their corners, lighting candles for warmth. A few pray, a few count. Most simply rest, preparing to repeat the same lies tomorrow. But in the flickering light, you see something like dignity, a quiet pride in endurance. The city doesn't thank them, but it uses them. They are its conscience, its camouflage, its mirror. And somewhere in the distance, the guild bells ring again, iron tongues announcing another day of honest deceit. London exhales, the streets settle into silence, and the fog curls low over the ground. Somewhere, a beggar hides his splint for the night. Somewhere, a tailor smooths a crooked seam. Both sleep soundly, comforted by the same thought. Tomorrow will bring the same sins and the same survival. Justice in medieval London doesn't hide. It performs. When the city punishes, it does so loudly, with bells, banners, and the smell of roasted meat drifting from nearby taverns. Because punishment, like faith, works better with an audience. At dawn, the stocks stand waiting in the square, wood darkened by years of weather and humiliation. By noon, they'll hold someone, a pickpocket, a drunk, a blasphemer, maybe just a man who insulted the wrong guildmaster. Children throw cabbage leaves. Vendors sell pies. The crowd laughs. The person in the stocks doesn't resist. They've already learned the second rule of survival in London. When the crowd decides your guilt, the law is redundant. For bigger crimes, there's the pillory, a public stage where the condemned stands for hours, their head and hands locked between planks of wood. Rain or shine, people gather. It's not about punishment. It's about reassurance, a reminder that sin has shape, and shape can be controlled. They jeer, they throw mud, sometimes stones, but they always go home lighter, freer, as if justice were contagious. Executions draw the largest crowds. The Tyburn tree, 3 wooden beams forming a triangle, waits just outside the city. By mid-morning, it's surrounded by hawkers selling roasted chestnuts and penny pamphlets describing the condemned's crimes. Parents bring their children. Lovers hold hands. The air smells of sweat, smoke, and curiosity. The condemned arrive in carts, escorted by guards pretending not to enjoy the attention. They're allowed to speak. Last words turned into brief theater. Some curse, some pray, some joke. One thief, just before the drop, shouted, "I die for want of money. Had I more, you'd be hanging in my place." The crowd laughed, then cheered as the rope snapped tight. Humor, even here, survives. You'd think the horror would linger, but by evening, the gallows are just another landmark. Children play near the posts. Traders pass by, nodding respectfully, the way one nods to an old story everyone knows by heart. Tomorrow, someone else will take the same walk. The city demands regular entertainment. It's easy to call it barbaric from a distance, but punishment in London isn't cruelty. It's theater with moral subtitles. Everyone plays a role: the sinner, the judge, the executioner, the spectator. Each leaves believing they're better than the other, and the city, satisfied, sleeps easier. Yet beneath the performance lies something stranger: admiration. The condemned thief, if brave enough, earns a kind of respect. He becomes a folk hero, a dark mirror of those who watched him hang. He dared to play the game openly, to cheat the system everyone quietly cheats in secret. After all, isn't theft just honesty about greed? Ballads spread through taverns, songs about clever rogues who fooled the sheriffs, tricked the nobles, outwitted the hangmen. They end badly, of course, but they live forever. London forgives the dead faster than the poor. Sometimes, the line between punishment and employment disappears entirely. A thief spared the rope might be hired as an informant, feeding names to the watch in exchange for coin. A forger might copy warrants for the same court that once condemned him. A smuggler might transport official goods under official silence. It's not hypocrisy, it's recycling. In London, redemption means staying useful. The church, too, plays its part. Priests preach repentance, but they know crime fills their pews more than faith does. They bless the condemned before hanging, ensuring the city's soul remains statistically pure. Even sin, in the right proportions, is good for business. Once, during Lent, a preacher scolded the crowd at Tyburn for enjoying the spectacle. He spoke of mercy, of compassion, of divine justice. No one listened. When he finished, they asked if the next hanging was still on schedule. London doesn't dislike morality. It just prefers its lessons brief and its endings visible. The punishments evolve with the times, but the sentiment doesn't. By the late 14th century, the city experiments with new penalties: whipping, branding, banishment, each meant to be cleaner, more civilized. But the crowd still gathers, still cheers, still eats their lunch as someone else's pain becomes proof of order. Behind closed doors, the officials count their successes: fewer crimes reported, more fines collected, a stable, moral city. On parchment, at least. Outside, the same crimes continue, quieter, cleverer, now better disguised, because nothing trains criminals faster than public discipline. You imagine the faces of all those you followed: Sparrow, bold and restless; Will Cray, vanished into the river; Mistress Alice, lost to justice; Tom, standing somewhere in the fog, half legend, half man. They're gone, but their rhythm remains, the hum of need and nerve that built the city's true foundation. As dawn spreads over London, you walk past the empty pillory, the wet cobblestones, the quiet stalls opening for trade. No one mentions the execution from yesterday. The city forgets fast. Forgetting is how it stays sane. A woman sells apples beside a puddle still pink with old rain. A boy laughs, tossing a coin. Somewhere, a church bell tolls, solemn and self-satisfied. You pause at the bridge and watch the river roll beneath. The water is the same as it was a century ago, indifferent, forgiving. It carries away the ashes of fires, the bodies of the condemned, the secrets of the living, all swept into the same current. The Thames knows more about justice than the courts ever will, and so, as the city exhales another day, you realize something gentle, almost comforting. London doesn't hate its criminals. It needs them. They are the shadows that make its light believable, the chaos that makes its order seem divine. Without them, the sermons would sound hollow, the laws would feel unnecessary, and the city itself, this grand breathing organism of trade and sin, would lose its rhythm. If you've drifted this far with me, through fog and filth, through crime and confession, then maybe you understand it too. The line between sinner and citizen is just smoke. Shift the light and they trade places. If you enjoyed drifting through this piece of the past, maybe leave a like, or just let the story carry you to sleep. Tomorrow, the bells will ring again, and somewhere in the fog, another thief will wake up early to start the city's day. Morning comes slowly to London. The fog doesn't lift, it just softens. The bells ring somewhere far off, muffled by the damp air, and the city stirs like something half asleep, but too practiced to rest. The night's stories, thefts, bribes, bargains, dissolve into routine. Bakers light their ovens, merchants sweep their stalls, children chase each other down alleys still glistening from the rain. The city looks clean again. It always does, after sin has had its turn. You walk through Cheapside, where the smell of bread mingles with smoke. No one mentions what happened last night. They don't have to. London keeps its secrets with the same care it keeps its taxes. Efficiently, consistently, forever. A man sells ribbons on the corner. A beggar woman hums near the church gate. A watchman dozes against a wall, his lantern unlit. If you didn't know better, you'd think this place innocent. But look closer. The butcher's scales are rigged. The baker's flour is stretched with chalk. The beggar's bandaged arm is perfectly fine beneath the linen. Every face here hides a quiet calculation, a balance between honesty and hunger. And yet, there's no malice, only necessity, a kind of weary peace that comes from knowing what survival costs and paying it anyway. Somewhere near the river, Tom sits in a tavern corner, watching the light creep across the floorboards. He's older now, his hair thinner, his hands still. The others are gone. Sparrow vanished years ago, Mistress Alice, a name whispered in caution, Will Cray, a ghost beneath the Thames. Tom drinks his ale slowly. He's neither rich nor poor, neither saint nor villain, just another man shaped by the city's appetite. He doesn't steal anymore. He doesn't have to. The city owes him, in a way, not in coin, but in memory. Every rumor of clever thieves, every whispered tale of daring escape, every ballad sung by a drunk apprentice, they all sound a little like him. He has become what London does best, a story that feels true whether it is or not. Outside, the docks wake, sailors haul ropes, gulls scream, barrels thud onto planks. The Thames glitters faintly in the morning sun, as if trying to look innocent too. A barge drifts past, low in the water, cargo covered with canvas, legal or not. No one asks. Everyone understands. The city doesn't punish the river for what it carries. It just takes its share. In the marketplace, Mistress Alice's bakery has reopened under a new name. The bread tastes the same. People still line up for it, hands outstretched, coins ready. No one remembers the woman who once hid silver spoons beneath the floorboards. History in London is always for sale, reshaped, renamed, resold by the next tenant. Even the church plays along. The priests bless the bakers, the merchants, the guards. They preach about virtue while the offering plate fills. The hymns echo off stone walls built with money no one asks too many questions about. Salvation, like bread, has a price, and in London, everyone knows the going rate. You walk toward the bridge, watching the crowd flow around you. The air smells of wet wool and roasted chestnuts. Voices overlap, merchants haggling, children laughing, a preacher shouting half-heartedly about sin. No one listens. They're too busy living. That's the quiet genius of the city. It doesn't moralize. It absorbs. Every crime becomes part of its rhythm. Every sinner another verse in its endless hymn. By noon, the streets hum again. Coins change hands faster than prayers. A pickpocket brushes past you. You feel it, but you let it go. He needs it more than you do, and you realize this isn't wickedness. It's cooperation in disguise, an unspoken agreement that no one is entirely honest, and that's what makes things work. In a tavern nearby, a group of dockhands laugh over their drinks. One of them tells a story about a thief who once outwitted the mayor's guards, stealing his own ransom twice. The others roar with delight. Someone buys another round. The story isn't true, but it feels right. That's enough. London doesn't run on truth. It runs on belief, the kind that fills purses and pews alike. As evening creeps closer, the fog rolls in again, soft and forgiving. The bells ring curfew, the same notes that have echoed for centuries. Windows shutter, lanterns glow faintly in the mist, and behind every one, a secret, a lie, a kindness, a theft, a prayer. All of them woven so tightly together that pulling one would unravel the rest. The city survives because it refuses to confess. You stop at the river's edge, the same place you began. The water moves lazily, glinting with pale light. You imagine all that sunk beneath it, truth, guilt, the bones of men who ran out of luck. The surface stays calm, as if guarding them. Maybe it's just honest about what it takes to live. So the city sleeps and wakes and sins and prays over and over until the centuries blur, the faces change, the crimes adapt, the hunger remains. Every market, every sermon, every theft whispers the same quiet truth, that survival is the oldest profession and London its most faithful customer. If you've stayed awake this long, thank you for walking through its shadows. If you've drifted off, that's fine too. The city will keep moving without you. Either way, the bells are ringing again, and morning has returned. Somewhere in the fog, someone's already making plans for tonight. Sleep well, and when you wake, remember, the line between honest work and clever theft was never very wide. Not here, not ever.